And welcome to Reliving My Youth. My name is Noel Fogelman. My guest this week is Melanie Chartoff. Very talented actor, comedian, and author. She can do it all. We talk about her amazing book, Odd Woman Out, which I highly recommend the audio version because she narrates it and does an amazing job. She's also working on her next book, which I can't wait to read. And you probably know her from Rugrats, Didi, Pickles, Minka, guest starring on Seinfeld, and one of my favorite episodes of all time, The Fire, playing Robin, George's girlfriend, and she also came back for the finale. We discussed that. We also discussed Parker Lewis Can't Lose, playing Miss Musso, which was terrifying back in the day. And we talked some of her lesser-known roles, which I really enjoyed as well. Melanie is also going to be at the Santa Monica Public Library with some other amazing authors. We discussed that. Really enjoyed my conversation with Melanie, and I hope you do as well. So Melanie, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm really delighted that we could work it out.
Yeah, definitely. You're quite busy. You got a busy summer coming up. I guess the first thing coming up for you is at the Santa Monica Public Library, July 17th, right? What it's called, Home
Yeah.
Finding a Place in This World. So it's you and a couple
Yes, well,
other
some of the people
authors.
involved have lost their homes in the Palisades fire,
Right.
and they're writers. So none better than they to express the feelings of confusion and loss and displacement that are going on. Also, we have an enormous homeless problem in Santa Monica and the West Side. Very hard to find low income and suitable housing that the folks will stay in here on the west side of Southern California. It's Los Angeles area. And two of the women lost their husbands over the last few years. So there's a lot of like displacement feeling in the air.
Right.
But they're very upbeat people and very adaptive and brave. So I think they're inspirational. And I haven't lost anything. I've gained, a husband, which for the first time I found a person who I didn't have to dislocate myself to be with. I could actually be the whole spiel that I actually am without having to adjust or settle or try to make myself over. So that was kind of like a finding home for myself late in life.
Right. That's great. Yeah. And your book, we'll sort of discuss in a little bit, it definitely talks about your journey to that. I'm so glad that you found a happy ending, so to speak.
So far.
So far. Yeah. So far.
Yeah,
it ain't,
right. Ain't over yet.
Ain't over yet.
So far, so good.
Right. Now,
these days, books that have happy endings seem a little bit daffy. It's just we never know when it really ends, and that our death day will be the happiest day of our lives. So it's very hard to write anything with a totally happy ending. Well, let's be realistic about life. There's temporary break points and definitely great stopping points along the way, but we never know how happy the ending will be.
Yeah. And the thing about life, no matter how rich, how poor you are, everyone ends up in the same spot.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah. And what I liked about one thing in the book, Odd Woman Out, I read, or I should say I listened to the audio version, which you narrated so well. I have a long commute each day. I take on the train, so it was a quick listen.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it was great. Everyone listen to the audiobook instead of reading it, because if you know Melanie and if you're listening to the book, you obviously know Melanie. She portrays her mom well, and just do a little bit of singing in the narration, and it's a fantastic listen. But I like the part when you're trying to settle kind of your afterlife affairs, and talk about you didn't want to go into a box because claustrophobic, so you talk about cremation. And I laugh because like I can't sleep on my back, so I'm gonna tell my wife or put in my will that I want to be in the coffin on my stomach, because that's my final resting place, and I figured that would be perfect for myself.
Well, I think the fetal position would be the ideal position for us to be buried in a coffin, because we're born in the fetal position.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's a comfortable sleep position. It's really the healthiest for you, Noel, for you to sleep on your side,
Which I
not
do
on your
too.
front.
Yeah.
You're back. Yeah. So I think they should bury us in the fetal position, back
Yeah.
just like we started.
Right. I'll just make sure that my wife includes my sleep apnea machine in there. You know?
Yeah. It's gonna be a long night.
Oh yeah, it's
Well, I actually chose to be cremated just because I didn't want to waste land.
oh
But now I'm thinking that the byproduct of cremation, which is smoke, is probably not a great thing for the earth
no.
either. So I'm still casting around for the most environmentally correct way to
Yeah.
go down.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah. Maybe you can freeze your body.
It takes up a lot of space, though.
Yeah, that's true. And probably more expensive
A
than
lot of chemicals for preservation go into freezing too.
yeah. So someone will figure out a cost-effective way eventually.
I
Because
hope so. Yeah.
yeah. Because my mom complains about the bill for the upkeep for my grandparents at the cemetery, how much she has to pay for it, and it's like it's ridiculous. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But the
I
the
want to be as low. I want to be as low maintenance as possible.
yeah,
It's
me
kind of
too.
what
Because
I've been.
I'm not gonna know. So exactly. Just dump me
Yeah.
somewhere, and we have pictures and videos to cherish all the memories about. But the book, and I kind of got a chuckle about your trip to the Hustler store, and I was wondering if Tyrone the dildo was covered by your insurance.
Yes, I wished you were. No, it
No.
was a trick. Even though my gynecologist prescribed it, it was not actually covered. Like so many holistic things are just not covered by insurance.
Right.
Only in messy and basic medical procedures, but
Yeah.
no, not Tyrone.
But I also, I mean, I don't want to go too deep in the book 'cause I want people to listen to it, but it's fascinating how it's just about your personal life, not about professional life. And you kind of, mention a couple little things, but the whole book, you don't mention anything about Rugrats or anything about like Seinfeld or some of the other big shows that you've been on. And I kind of appreciate that, how I learned about you, the person, and not Melanie, the actress or the comedian, or the author. Well, I mean, the author, yes, but so I kind of find that really fascinating.
Well, I do allude to Rugrats. I think in one story I mentioned that you know I was dating a car salesman who
Yes,
was so impressed with the fact that I was now an iconic voice of a character on
right.
Rugrats. Because I mean, I had done Moliere on Broadway, I had toured in Shakespeare, I'd done all this classic
Yeah,
work, and to think that's what I'm most remembered for is just sort of a laughing joke, kind of a black comic joke. Mm-hmm.
right. Now you have a Comic-Con coming up in Connecticut, Mohegan Sun, the TerrifiCon, August 8th to the 10th, and I've been there before. It's a great convention. So when people come to you, is it
What's
mainly
it like? Tell me what it's like.
Uh,
Terrificon.
well, yeah, it's in a casino, so you'll have to go through there. So you might, lose some money before you actually make some money. So you'll probably break
Right.
even for the weekend. But yeah, it's fun. They spaced it out because I've done the New York one a lot, and that one is just massive. It's so crowded. They do a good job at this one spacing it out, and if there's anyone that you've seen in the past or you want to see, you get to hang out with them for a little bit and kind of mingle and stuff. But all the fans there are very nice and cordial. So you'll have a good time.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. But like when people come to you, I mean, I'm sure you've done some of these conventions before. Is it mainly for Didi?
It's for Didi Pickles and it's for Grace Musso from the
Yeah,
Parker Lewis Can't Lose,
right.
and it's from Seinfeld. And then some mature people remember a show called Fridays,
Fridays,
which I
right.
did with Larry David, Michael Richards,
Yep.
which was sort of a Los Angeles version of Saturday Night Live.
Right.
So I have a range of remembrances for people. I have pictures from each of those shows, and I can recall episodes from each of those shows that were, impressive or excruciating. So
Right.
yeah, I'm very flattered that I have a range of stuff, and then sometimes people remember something completely obscure that I hardly remember. So, like being on Wonder Woman, that was one of my
Yes.
first jobs out here. having getting to work with the incredibly attractive Rick Springfield, who was an actor before he became a big, pop star.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I try to have memorabilia that covers the waterfront, that covers all of those experiences.
Right. So anything from Fresno, that fantastic miniseries?
No, I don't know why that hasn't held up. I sure love doing that show. It
Yeah.
was a parody of
Right.
Dallas that took place in the raisin industry in Fresno,
Yeah.
and in which the pivotal incident is that a man is murdered and then boxed and dehydrated as a raisinette.
Yeah.
That's how they try to hide the body. And Carol Burnett was in it. Terry Garr was wonderful in it.
Yeah.
Chuck Grodin,
Yeah.
uh,
Dabney Coleman.
Daphne Coleman.
Yeah.
Just getting out with this whole gang between shots was the real attraction, aside from the
Yeah.
salary.
Yeah.
Great conversation.
Yeah, and a young Bill Paxton who was
Bill Paxton, and
yeah, and
he's Miss.
yeah, Teresa Ganzel, who I had on the show before. Yeah, and was Gregory Harrison. Yeah, so it was
Greg, yes, I see him from time to time. I see Teresa and Greg,
right.
luckily still around.
Yeah, thankfully. And then unfortunately we just lost Valerie recently, who was in it.
Valerie,
I can't want to butcher her last name, but she was also
Kathy,
yeah, yes.
Kathy,
Okay,
is
yeah.
she? Oh,
Yeah, I think last month she recently passed.
oh my gosh. I didn't know she was a lot younger than me, so I'm sort of surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was very good. The whole show was great. It really didn't get its due here in the States. They didn't understand it as well as they did in England, where it was a big pop favorite for a little while.
right.
But here in America, they didn't trust that the audience would get the subtle humor, so they added a laugh track,
Oh, yeah,
which I felt was unnecessary and
yeah, it's
tacky.
forced.
But yeah, maybe it just didn't get the right network. It just wasn't as well remembered as a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Thank you for remembering.
Oh, of
Thank you for
course,
remembering.
yeah. And it's on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it. It's really entertaining. It's and you played a lawyer who is in love with herself and stuff like that. Yeah.
Desiree de Mornay, yes, very
Yeah.
vain, self-preoccupied attorney.
Yeah, exactly. Who was always late to meeting with her clients because either she's getting her nails done or hair or whatnot. So it was
My dry cleaning wasn't ready. That
yeah.
was something.
Yeah. Exactly. Now you also do cameos still, right?
Yes, that came to me in the last few years. And when people have a big event that they
Yeah.
want to have a greeting from one of the characters I play, they book me on Cameo, and I'm able to provide, the voice or the character, whatever they like, and answer some of their personal questions for a few moments. So, yeah, that's been a nice little, during the lonely days of being a writer these days, which is
Right.
what I'm mostly doing. It's nice to have a little communication with some folks
Yeah.
via the Cameo app.
Yeah. Well, what's
Kind of
been
fun.
like kind of like the most out there request for you?
Well, I actually didn't do it because I thought it might be illegal. Um, there was apparently a trick that a sister was playing on her brother, creating a fake gold digger wife for the brother and telling the parents that their son was marrying a gold digger and she was going to try to get all the money so that they should instead leave all the money to her, the sister.
Okay.
And they said, and just say, oh, it was all a joke, and
Right.
there actually is no Matilda. There is no Matilda. I just made her up. I said, I don't think I want to mess with this. I
Yeah.
don't think I want to get involved. So that was the most outrageous request.
Okay.
And sometimes it's an apology. I'll do those if they seem sincere.
Yeah.
Someone's apologizing because they can't make it for Passover that year, but they sent Didi and Minka, the Russian Jewish
Right.
old country grandma from Rugrats, to
Yeah.
apologize, and that eases people.
Right. And speaking of Rugrats, I mean it's so great because I'm also Jewish that there was a cartoon that kind of celebrated, the Jewish faith and the holidays because everything is Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. Nothing wrong with that. The majority of the, population celebrates it, but it was so good to have that and just, the Passover episode and the Hanukkah. It was really good. And
I was very honored to be a part of the first animated Jewish special for Passover and Hanukkah.
Right.
Minka, my narrated the Hanukkah special
Yeah.
about Judah the Maccabee.
Yeah.
Uh, I felt really wonderful about that. And then we also honored Kwanzaa,
Yeah.
and they managed to honor every possible holiday that one of our viewers' kids was representing. So I felt really great about that. A equal opportunity celebrating show.
Yeah. And the best line I love from the Hanukkah special is, it's a miracle that we survived 2,000 years eating with our arteries not getting clogged, meaning the lock is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, truly. It's not the healthiest food in the world by my standards.
No, but it's good though. Yeah. Yeah. Did you kind of play into your mother, like voicing Didi and Minka?
I did. My mother sounded like me, only speeded up, sort of
Hmm.
like 78 RPM instead of my voice, which is in a more normal vibration. And so, right at the beginning, when I saw the adjectives for the character, which were, anxious, kind of neurotic, protective, all I had to do was resurrect my mom, and it really suited the show really well. Also, the callback, I got to audition with Jack Riley, who ended up
Yeah.
playing my husband, who I worked with on Newhart,
Right.
and so David, who played the grandfather, who's also now sadly passed. And we just were arguing and arguing, and then Didi just lost it after being very repressed and kind of polite. She suddenly loses it and goes crazy. So that really endeared me to them, and I think that's why I got the job. It was my first animated audition,
Wow.
so lucky,
Yeah.
really lucky.
Right. And
And
it's
then the executives in New York asked me to audition for Minka on the telephone. So I was on some massive conference call and I auditioned for Minka because they pay you for two characters and they wanted to make sure I could play both.
right.
Actually, I played three. I played Reptar's wife
Oh yeah.
also.
Reptar and Ice. That was great. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Um, is that like your biggest cash cow now? Residuals from that?
I'd say it has been. Yeah.
That's
I
great.
do get money, paid in from other shows I've done in the past,
Right.
animated, like Anji. I did the
Oh yeah.
animated Aunt Nora
Right.
Anji and
Phoebe Newer's character.
OKKO series. There's some DVD money coming in from other shows.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, Rugrats has been very good to me. It's kind of amazing. Bought me this old house.
Right. No, that's awesome. And got you your mom the condo, I think you said in your book too, right?
Bought my mom the condo. Actually, my sister and I split the condo. My sister lives in Brooklyn, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
closer to my Haven. But yeah, we split the condo, and mom has lived there for in this place called Whitney Center for 17 years now, which my residuals paid.
Nice. That's
So
that's in Hamden, right? Connecticut?
yes, exactly in
Yeah.
Hamden,
Okay.
Connecticut, very
Yeah.
close to New Haven.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I have some friends, kids who go to Quinnipiac right over there.
Oh,
And
sure,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my mom is 101
Wow.
now.
God bless.
They've been very good care of her over the years. It's the sweetest place. I swear they're all on some spiritual mission. The
Right.
people that work there are the kindest, most patient, most loving people. It's just remarkable. They're like a cult or something. They're just so
Right.
kind.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. My mom always says, I always joke with her, like with, Golden Girls, I always say like she does something that's, kind of like out there. I say, Shady Pines, Mom, Shady Pines, you know.
Was that the name of it?
Yeah, from Golden Girls.
Shady.
Shady Pines.
Oh,
Yeah, but no, she's she's your age, so she's fine. She's good. So
oh, good.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I also watched the trailer for the short film you're in, Cut Off. It takes place at
Yeah.
at a bris, which is always a dramatic event, and you're in it, and Randy Heller from Karate Kid fame
That's
also.
what I went to college with Randy Heller. In fact, I have a picture of Randy and I
Right.
in Little Mary Sunshine, where she
Uh,
played Madame Von Ernestine and I played Little Mary Sunshine. So there's pictures of us similar to the way we look on the couch in that movie, except we both have white hair in the
Right.
movie. So, and it was fun to 56 years later be working with Randy again. We had a
Wow.
really great time.
That's great.
And at times they just left the mic open and had us improvise. We just improvised a bunch of stuff about the baby, about the attendees at the bris. We were criticizing the food, you know, typical old, retired, widowed ladies
Yeah.
picking on everyone and everything.
Well, of
And
course. Yeah. Yeah. My oldest son's bris was dramatic because my father-in-law got the Moyle and he was Orthodox. So it was like
oh,
drew the and like the women in the back and my mom and my mother-in-law were like, no, we're not standing in the back. It's our grandson. And me, I can handle anything. I could not handle the bris. So I was like, I'll be in the back. You guys can take my spot. And then my
it's so
yeah.
primitive.
Yeah, it
Go
is.
ahead.
It's disgusting because then you hear all like horror stories about infections when they do that, and luckily my son was fine, but it's just like my youngest son, we ended up just doing in the hospital, and my wife still hasn't forgiven me for that.
She's tough.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She's tough.
I call her like a poser Jew. She wants to be Jewish when she wants to be. Like some things, it's like, oh, the holidays here and we're like reformed, but with certain things, she wants to like, obviously keep the tradition and culture. I'm all for that, but like a bris, it's like, gotta find them. Let them do it in the hospital. It's more sanitary. It's fine. You know, you have to
And
do
it's covered by insurance, right?
exactly, exactly.
Right.
You know,
You do it at home with a boil, it's not covered by insurance.
no, and the one with the Moyle, it was just a donation that I think my in-laws made to the temple that he was part of. But still, it was just like, you know, don't want to have to revisit that again. But yeah. Do you know when that short film is coming out? Cut off?
It's running in all these festivals.
Okay.
So Woodstock Festival, a short film festival. It was at the Miami Short Film Festival. It's all these short film festivals
Right.
where we're winning the audience award,
Oh, that's great.
which is, and then I believe it has an afterlife, but I cannot tell you when or where that is. I hope that, that people I love can get to see the whole thing because it's
Right.
really fun and cute.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully some of the streaming sites will pick it up.
Yeah, I don't know where those go. There is a
Mhm.
network called HiFlix. I don't know if you've heard of
Yes. Yeah.
HiFlix,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
and
Yeah.
they're a great distribution area for obscure little films on the Jewish themes from all over
Yeah.
the world.
Right.
I've seen films from Ethiopia, from Australia, from Scandinavia, a really fascinating network. I really recommend it. It's a subscription, and at the moment you can only get it on your computer, but it's a great new network.
Right. But unfortunately, it's down Friday night to Saturday night, right? No, I'm kidding.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe I'm like you. I'm like a reformed
Yeah.
Jewish person.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was a Hebrew school dropout, so
Yeah,
I, yeah,
many were.
yeah. I had to get tutored for my bar mitzvah. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's all
And I
right.
and I read it all in
But you
English.
forget it all. You forgot it all right after
Oh,
anyway, right?
yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Did like acting in this short film kind of like give you the acting bug again? Because I know you've been like concentrating on writing for so long now.
I've been doing a lot of plays,
Right. Okay.
readings and stuff, which don't make it to film. But no, I always love acting. It's my most favorite thing to do. It's a little constricted here in Los Angeles. There's not much production going on here,
Okay.
except for short films or student films.
Right.
Um, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out. I'm doing a lot of readings, spoken word performances,
Okay.
doing a lot of nightclub singing. I have an original series of songs that I've written.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I miss acting very, very much. I do audition on self tapes, which
Okay.
means you have to record yourself.
Yeah.
They'll send you the script on a Sunday, and you need to get it in Tuesday morning. I mean, it's very tight. I guess it's like learning your Haftorah. You learn it really fast, and then it goes out of your head unless
Absolutely.
you get the job.
Yeah.
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 So I'm missing acting a whole lot, and the writing does help a great deal. I'm writing a novel, a social satire right now
Oh
about a
wow.
new
Okay.
biofuel, and it's almost finished. And then, of course, I have to get it edited by a biotech person, and then I'm going to try getting a publisher for it. It's very now. It takes place in the near future. It's sci-fi from a female perspective.
Right.
It's kind of like a gentler Carl Hyacin. I don't know if you read Carl
Okay. Yeah, I
Hyacin,
know who he is. Yeah.
but he's always doing eco-terrorism. This may be terrifying, but it's not deliberately terrifying. It's kind of a funny, high concept premise.
Okay.
And so that's what preoccupies me. I have a novel writing group that I'm in, and we turn in a chapter a week. So I'm about chapter 33, heading for the finale now.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's thrilling. Like acting. It's a great escape into an alternative universe,
Right.
which is very healing these days when you really want to get out of the newspaper and into an alternative universe.
Yeah. I mean, my full-time job is working for a cable news channel, so I deal with it all the time, and it's
Sorry.
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
thankfully it's not far left. It's News Nation, so it's not like, it's in the center, so it's good because you hear both
that's
sides and you don't know what to believe sometimes. So you know,
hard to know.
yeah, absolutely. And if you have a Substack, and I've seen a lot of your articles on Ulster, and they're fascinating. Things that I can't relate to, but I still find humor in, and like your massive collection of undergarments, trying to get rid of them. And you mentioned you only have two breasts. Why do you have so many undergarments? So I kind of find that humorous, and
Yeah. I think women at my age, they start to sort out comfortable things from uncomfortable things,
yeah,
personally, in terms of underwear, but also in terms of interpersonal relationships. You just begin to sort things out. You want to make life as easy and comfortable, 2,000 thread count easy as possible in
yeah,
every realm. So a lot of women said, yes, I've just thrown out my push-up hydraulic bra too.
right,
I'm just not wearing those gowns anymore. I don't really need to put my breasts up on a shelf to display to the world anymore.
right.
Kind of outlived. Yeah, I have another one article coming up in a few weeks about seeing the volume on the TV get higher and higher now in the last year. My husband and I notice we need closed captions more than we ever have
Okay,
before. We wish that people in real life had closed captions, because sometimes in a restaurant you can't really hear what the person
yeah,
across from you is saying, and I'm always, where are the subtitles on this person?
right.
But yeah, life changes, your perspective changes a little bit. And since all my friends are going along at the same time, misery loves company. We're all kind of having a good time with it. Nobody's
Yeah,
really frightened or depressed or suffering.
that's good.
We're kind of getting, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you have to laugh. If you don't laugh, you're gonna cry.
yeah. That laughing keeps you in good health. It's really an elixir.
Yeah. And speaking of laughing, why do you feel like comedy in maybe like the past 15, 20 years is kind of like in a dark period? Are people kind of afraid to like, I wouldn't say laugh, but like make fun of people? And because we're so uptight now.
Well, there's a lot of lawsuits, that are possibly pending, for some of our finest comedians. So just in the last couple of months,
Yeah.
comedy's gotten dangerous. Um, but I just think, as I said before, we were much more realistic about, well, how happy a happy ending can be. We're much more aware of the universe uh, being beyond our control, about global warming, climate change. I think that we all have a kind of an eye out to making as much fun as we can as we go. Larry Charles, who's one of the writers on Fridays,
Yep.
the late night comedy show,
Yeah. And Seinfeld. Yep.
uh, he worked on Seinfeld, he worked on Curb. He did a documentary show, um, and interviewed, people in the Congo who had dealt with all kinds of brutality. He deals with people who are really in dark and dire circumstances and what their senses of humor are. Oh, I wish I could think of the name of it. You can Google it. It's
Okay.
Larry Charles, humor in the world, or something like
Right.
that. It's shocking how funny people in these terrible circumstances can be. They have to be. There's also a documentary. Mel Brooks is featured on it, of course, about Holocaust humor
Okay.
and how some people used it as a survival tool. I mean, they just needed it, and others don't want to talk about it anymore at all. Mel Brooks himself says something to the effect of Hitler is funny. You know, when I did The Producers, I
Yeah.
made fun of Hitler. That was universally funny.
Right.
But the camps, Auschwitz, places like that, the Holocaust itself, not funny. Don't touch it.
Right.
But of course, there are people who have touched it. Bernini did that movie some years ago and won the Academy Award for it about beauty, something about the beauty of the camps, which I found a little hard to believe.
Yeah.
But certainly people want to see it that way. It's comforting to think that people had humor about that, and there's a sweeter way to see it. But I think it's a survival tool, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of interesting projects going on now. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Nathan Fielder's show,
Oh,
The
on
Rehearsal.
Rehearsal. Yeah, on HBO. Yeah.
Yes, fascinating way to approach. It's a different kind of comedy completely. First of all, he has 24-hour immersion improv where you're playing a character night and day, just like in Jury Duty, which came out I think
Yeah.
2 years ago too.
That's right.
Where these improvisational actors, and I'd love to play one of those parts sometime, except I might be too well known, is so immersed in a character that surrounds this person that's being tricked, um, that they never get out of it. I mean, they just stay
Yeah.
in a character, mock life, a fake written life for days and weeks. Sometimes in Jury Duty, the characters were all sequestered together in some motel in the San Fernando Valley here, and
Right.
they had to, from the minute went out their hotel room door, they had to be that character. So a whole kind of new acting challenge, which I'd look forward to being a part of. You know, I'd love to play one of those old ladies in an old age home or something with a wig, you know, and
Yeah.
just be that character every day for some enactment.
Right. And that kind of brings me to the next point with Andy Kaufman. I feel like he was, obviously one of the forefront in doing that with all these characters, and they had you interviewed during his documentary that came out recently. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk about what happened on Fridays, but 'cause that's been out there forever. But I do want to ask you about when he passed away. Did you actually believe it when you heard the news?
I did because I knew his manager, George Shapiro and Howard West, very well.
Right.
And he said it's sick that people don't believe it. I mean, he was wasting away. He
Yeah.
was clearly losing his life force. And he had also changed from his edgy, satirical, aggressive self to a sweeter, softer, apologetic person. So it was clear this was not a three-dimensional trick. This was like losing life force.
Yeah.
So no, I knew it and believed it.
Right.
And it's kind of tragic and sad. Apparently, as Danny DeVito says in this documentary that I'm in called Thank You Very Much on Apple TV,
Right.
he said Carol Kane still didn't believe it and
Yeah.
actually poked in the coffin,
That's right. Yeah.
tried to get a eyes out of him. And I thought, well, she really thought he was good at what he did sufficiently to go that far.
Right.
But yeah, he was a precursor to, Sacha Baron Cohen
Exactly. And
and a lot
Borat
of,
and Ali G and all the stuff he played. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He definitely, towed the line between decent humanity and radical trickery. And, it wasn't an art form that I preferred because I was the victim of it on Fridays.
Yeah.
I had to go along with his
Right.
disrespecting our show and crapping
Yeah.
on the whole thing. But I have to say it was effective, and there's still a big following for
Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah. Did because when you watch the clip, I'm just gonna mention this. Did Mary Edith Burrell, because she just lost it. She was laughing the whole time. So she obviously knew, all of you really knew,
We
right?
all knew.
Yeah. So
Yeah, we all
different
we were all
reactions,
in on
right?
it.
Yeah.
We also knew because we had been given that sketch at the beginning of the week, like all our sketches on a Monday. And I said, this sketch doesn't have an ending. How come we don't have an ending on this sketch? I knew
Right.
something was going to go
Yeah.
awry. And of course, at the opening of the evening, just before we went on, Jack Burns took us all aside and said, okay, Andy's going to break out of every sketch in the show. and you just improvise, just go with it. And you're the proper wife, so you stay in that character. And Mary Edith, you're the stoned wife, so that's what we did. And of course, the crew didn't know that this was planned.
Yeah.
And you could see how red they got, how angry they got at our show being violated. And they grabbed him. And I thought they were going to beat the hell out of him during the commercial, but Jack Burns stopped them,
Right.
prevented him. Very horrible. But I think Andy didn't mind being beaten up because he was preserving the joke.
Yeah.
I mean, some people like Michael Richards. I was always impressed with Michael Richards and Mark Blankfield, how far they would go for a laugh. I mean, they would put themselves in such physical jeopardy that it scared the heck out of them.
Yeah. And he continued that on Seinfeld too.
Michael did?
Yeah, just the physical comedy and just, all the falls and bumps he would take.
He practiced those weren't improvised. He was a total pro at that, how to pratfall and make it look real. He and Mark Blankfield were real artisans of that kind of extreme physical comedy.
Right. The other thing you're known for on that show was being the newswoman on the updates, which was great too. Obviously you're playing yourself, so it's not that hard, but were there any like real life TV personalities that you kind of drew from?
I can't say that I did. I was just trying, since they were handing me jokes right off the AP machine, I had no time to prepare.
Right.
I just had to concentrate on getting the words right, which I was reading for the first time off the cue cards.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do much but try to be serious and then get aggravated when they tried to play tricks on me or did some surprise thing. I knew they were trying to rattle me. So I think, Jane Curtin probably had the same problem. Jane Curtin and I were in an off-Broadway show called The Proposition together, by the way, and auditioned for Saturday Night Live the same week.
Oh, wow.
And she got it. I didn't. I thought I should be on a show like this. Yeah. And 5 years later, I was. Yeah. But I think Jane Curtin had the same issue where that she would get to read the jokes cold and was just trying to. So she had a certain twang that she did. Yeah. And I think I sort of had to do the same thing just to survive getting it right on the air.
Right.
I remember going out live, the first show, they gave me a story and I messed up the words Ronald Reagan. I didn't want to say them something. I went, all right. And I said, oh, so what? I mean, I looked at the camera. I said, oh, so what? And just kept going. And that kind of saved my ass. I thought, I made a mistake in front of millions of people. And you know what? It doesn't really matter. And that really saved me so that I was able to be more confident and still inside myself doing those jokes cold on the air.
Right. And you own it that way. So it's good.
Yeah. Also, I'd had a lot of improv training and I also taught improv. I still teach improv comedy from a charismatic standpoint. I teach people how to be charismatic, that they can play utility characters. They can play the barber, the fireman, the wife, but they can also star in something, making sure you can go both ways and be an ambivert, meaning you can be an introvert or an extrovert. You have both options. You can recede and be a supportive character, or you can be the star. And so that's something I teach online now.
Right.
Charismatizing Improvising. It's my website.
Okay. Yeah. Which one did you prefer to play? The introvert or the extrovert?
I like playing the introvert, actually, because I haven't done that as much. Yeah. I like being the shy, kind of accidentally funny stumble bum person.
Right.
The bumpkin. I don't get to do it that much because I'm well spoken and I tend to play educated people. But one of the reasons I like doing Cut Off, that little film, was I conceived of this woman as very uneducated and as a consequence having to pick on other people to elevate herself.
Yeah.
And I saw that as a kind of an introverted, passive aggressive kind of character. And I'd love to do more of those. Hopefully I'll get the opportunity.
Right. Have you thought about like kind of writing like a short film for you to star in yourself?
I haven't, because I'm so busy writing the book.
Yeah.
And I have this one woman show called Many Minds, One Mouth, in which I funnel a whole bunch of different characters through the one mouth. But if you're going to be singing, you tend to be an extrovert. People are expressing feelings very emotionally and loudly. there aren't too many. There's a show called Once Upon a Mattress. Carol
Right.
Burnett did it on television before you were born. And there's a song in it about being shy. And of course, she belts the hell out of it. So the performance is kind of a contradiction to the content of the song, which makes it very funny. It's like, I've always been shy, I confess it. And it's such a denial of how,
Right.
how big Ren really is. I recommend watching the Kinescope with Carol Burnett if you ever get a chance. What's her name? Sutton Foster also recently did Once Upon a Mattress on Broadway, and that may have been filmed also. But it's a great show. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, but I'll have to check it out because I love Carol Burnett and fantastic. Which of all the people you've kind of worked with, was she like one that you were kind of like in awe of?
Yeah, not because of her performing, which we all knew about and lived with for so many, but because how kind she was to everybody and how encouraging she was to everybody on the set. She was a fan of all of us, and it was very kind of calming, to everyone to be working with this great who saw you as great. Like she read all the notes I was making while I was sitting on set as Desiree de Mornay, which is the attorney that I was playing. And she said, "You're a writer. You should be a writer. Pick up that pen, get to work. You're a writer." I thought that was so unnecessary, but so kind for her to go out of her way like that to be supportive. So anyway, yeah, I would say in terms of her personhood, love her. Just love her. Kirk Douglas was another wonderful actor that I worked with who had a stroke. He was somewhat, inhibited physically, but when that camera went on, boy, was he dynamic and charismatic, defying his bodily odds, to give an amazing performance. I did a show which was written by him about a man deciding to have a second bar mitzvah at 85, which apparently in the Jewish faith is legitimate. You can second go. It's like you're turning the odometer back and starting all over again at 85. So I was in an episode in which we reenacted his bar mitzvah with my son in the episode.
Okay.
It's called Touched by an Angel.
Okay.
And it's the Kirk Douglas episode. And that was one of my favorite roles, actually, because I got to be like a normal Jewish lady, not funny, just ahead, a devout believer trying to raise her son properly after her husband, Kirk Douglas's son, passes away. So that was a favorite dramatic role I've done. I've done a lot of dramatic roles, but I'm not known for them like I am the more comedic roles.
Right. Like Miss Musso, which was intimidating as watching that when I was younger. You were great in there. Parker Lewis Can't Lose, which ran longer than the 3 years. The first 2 years were fantastic. The third season, changed a bit, but yeah. And because Fox back then was trying to cater to the younger crowd with that show and 90210 and whatnot. I feel that show was kind of ahead of its time. Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
And the form of shooting that they used was revolutionary. Where they would shoot up my nose, or
the steam coming out
inside the refrigerator, and they'd show people coming into the refrigerator from the food's point of view.
Right.
And a lot of film directors came and apprenticed on our show, like Bob Zemeckis, for example.
Wow.
Brian Spicer, who later used our techniques in their films, that different perspective. They would have an arrow cam. So they'd be shooting an arrow in the forest and they'd have like a GoPro on the arrow or some cameraman running along besides the arrow to make it look like it was from the perspective of the object.
That's great. I had Corin on years ago, and Tim Stack, who played his father, loved him. He was fantastic. Yeah. Were there? I would say because Miss Musso was such an intimidating character. Did you get any fan mail, I wouldn't say fan, like hate mail regarding her?
No, actually, I mean, not that I'm aware of. No, I still get mail in my post office box, and No, people generally got the joke that wrote to
Yeah,
me.
that's good.
I did have people when I was on Fridays who took me seriously as a newscaster and
Okay.
woman, and actually showed up at the studio stalking me.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and that people got a little obsessive. A lot of letters from prisoners who wanted me to get drugs for them. Uh, so we catered to a different kind of audience,
Yeah,
I think, on that. Yeah. But the kids that watch Parker Lewis are pretty hip, I think.
yeah. Were after Fridays ended its run, was there ever a chance for you to audition again for SNL?
No, it was I was offered SNL by Bob Ebersol.
Okay.
Came to Los Angeles and offered me and Michael Richards the opportunity to be on Saturday Night Live. But Michael and I were both so burned out and tired. It was a real exhausting experience working 6 days a week and always feeling like you were auditioning for the network. They never picked us up for more than six at a time.
Wow.
And we were competing with Ted Koppel, who wanted to extend his news series later in the evening. So we never felt secure. And the pace of a show like Saturday Night Live, it's unceasing. It's just constant. You're either
Yeah.
writing it, recovering from it, or you're there. You know,
Right.
and I think Michael and I were both kind of tired. I know I wanted to go back to acting and just playing one role instead of
Yeah.
20 a day. So I did have the opportunity, and sometimes I think, oh, I should have done it, but I think I might have suffered health wise
Right.
because I was suffering from physical exhaustion
Yeah.
and mental exhaustion. Also, when you're on a show 6 days a week and working on it that much, you don't really know what the real world is like. You're either in your home or in a studio.
Studio. Right.
Uh, yeah, which is like a sealed box. You know, you don't. There's no natural light in a studio. There's no natural air in a studio. It's like you're in a box for
Yeah.
days and days. So I wanted to go out and travel and see the world and do other kinds of acting, meet other kinds of people.
Yeah.
But I must say, Saturday Night Live has had a hell of a run.
Sure has. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, and you got to work with Michael and Larry David again in one of my favorite Seinfeld episodes, The Fire, playing George's
No,
girlfriend, Robin, which you're basically the straight person in that episode to
yeah,
George's, craziness. And, George is obviously all four of them are despicable people, but that what George did in that episode, it's probably ranks as one of his most despicable acts in the show's history, knocking over your mother and all the kids in the birthday party. How much fun was that episode for you?
well, I didn't love my role because it was the straight girl. I
Yeah,
really liked being the funny one,
right.
low talker, or the player, or one of those very clever things.
Yeah,
But it was right after the earthquake in Los Angeles in 1994, and Larry called me on a Sunday and said, "Could you come in today and do this part?" And I had the FEMA guy here, the Federal Emergency Management District guy, in my
right.
house. I said, "Gotta go." Larry
Yeah,
David's calling. So I went right to work that Sunday and we shot it Monday or Tuesday. I think it was really high pressure.
right.
Um, and I hadn't watched the show that much because I'd been on a show myself. So I didn't know how
Yeah,
despicable George had become. So I remember I was on the set and my lines were rather pleasant. I couldn't think of anything to do with them. And Larry took me aside and he said, everybody treats George like he's an idiot and that's what you need to do. I said, I'm sorry. I didn't really know that. So
right.
then I changed the tone and it became more fun with Larry's direction.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's over for Bozo and stuff. Yeah, yeah,
it's over for both of us. And it was great to be on the final Seinfeld, which was like a party.
right.
Everybody who had been on Seinfeld was on it, and we didn't have to work or prepare because Larry just gave us the lines before we went on stage. We just had to wing it. Luckily, we all did rather well.
Right.
Um, but
Yeah.
it was wonderful to be a part of history. I mean, that was a historical episode, the final Seinfeld. It was
Yeah.
great
I
to be
mean,
part of it.
right. It's so divisive too, because people either love that episode or absolutely hate it. I'm in the camp of loving it, because I got what they were
I
trying to
can't
do
say
there.
it was supposed to be a half-hour episode, but the network kept saying, "Add it, pad
Wow,
it,
yeah.
make it longer. We want more commercial time." So what should have been a half hour turned into an hour and a half, and I really do think they didn't have enough story to substantiate an hour and a half
Yeah.
show. I personally didn't think it was an artistic triumph, but it sure was a financial
Oh,
triumph
I'm
for
sure.
the
Yeah.
network, Larry, and all the immediate producers involved.
Right. Because the way they ended it, I'm sure everyone who watching was like, oh my God, they're going to be back in a year. You know, they'll just make it a storyline. It's, oh yeah, they're in jail for 1 year and they'll just come back and restart their show.
And then Larry and Jerry Seinfeld made the Curb Your Enthusiasm finale an exact ripoff
Yeah.
of the Seinfeld thing. Yeah,
Right.
so
Clever.
it's like you get tired of writing after a while, and you just want to borrow from yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
That's what they did.
Yeah. So how long after you filmed the finale did it air? Because I'm sure people were asking you about it.
Oh, I think a couple of months, but I
Okay.
know I can't really
Yeah.
explicitly.
Right.
Yeah, maybe a couple of months. If you
Mhm.
look on ChatGPT, maybe they could tell you better than me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole nother avenue to go.
Uh,
Yeah. Um, there was another show that you worked on, a couple of guest starring spots was Wise Guy. And I used to watch that show with my mom all the time. She had a crush on Ken Wall, and you had
so handsome.
yeah. I remember for her birthday 1 year, I got her a Ken Wall calendar. So that's kind of like a gag gift, yeah. But yeah, you had like I guess a sort of relationship, professional relationship didn't go that far with Jonathan Banks, and everyone knows Jonathan Banks now from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. But when he had hair, he was on Wise Guy and some shows in the '80s. He was fantastic. Any good memories about shooting that show?
Well, Jonathan's an incredible actor, and so is Ken. I'd say the whole show is about obsessive compulsive men who, they're going to get that man. They're going to get that man no matter
Yeah,
what they do. And so the whole tone of the set up in Canada was very obsessive compulsive in terms of detail and all that. So these were stressed out people. And I enjoyed the work. The set was not my favorite kind of set. There was just a lot of tension on the set.
right.
Um, but it was an honor to be on it. I love playing that role. She ultimately gets her heart broken because Jonathan goes back to his wife.
Yeah,
He was so excited for romantic interest because Jonathan historically had only played thugs kind of up
exactly.
till then.
Yeah,
He played bad guys in Joel Silver movies,
right.
and
Beverly
he
Hills
didn't get to
Cop.
have them.
Yeah,
So he was excited about having a love interest, and he was happy. So that was great.
right. And the one thing about that show, it had amazing guest stars. I mean, it had a great arc with Kevin Spacey, Ray
Yes.
Sharkey. I mean, Jerry Lewis. It was just
Yeah.
amazing. Deborah Harry was on there for a little bit. It was just the quality of guest stars they had in there were fantastic.
Everybody wanted to be on it because it was so well written and so
Yeah,
intense,
right.
very intense.
Yeah,
We had a lot of locals on the show. We shot it up in Vancouver and the areas around Vancouver, and there were a lot of local uh, people on the show who were really good actors playing,
right.
cops or straight people or extras. So I got to know the Canadian people, a sweet people. In case you're thinking of moving there, they're really nice.
Right. Yeah. I went to college up in Buffalo, so we'd go to Canada all the time, so we know it well. Yeah. Since the drinking age up there was 19, so it was good.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So, where can people find you on like the internet and social media?
Well, I have a website, melaniechartoff.com. And I have another website for coaching and teaching called charismatizing.com. Charisma, TISING.com. And I'm also all over YouTube. There are hundreds of YouTubes I'm participating in, either as a bit player or a featured player. And then they can come see me at the Mohegan Sun Casino August 8th through 10th. I'll have a table. I'll have all kinds of memorabilia there, action figures and
Mhm.
toys and posters and all kinds of stuff. And it'd be fun to hang out with folks that might want to drop by.
Yeah, and don't forget, read or listen to Odd Woman Out. It's everywhere, Amazon, Apple, anywhere you can find a book. I highly recommend the audio version because Melanie does a fantastic job. narrating her amazing journey. Melanie, this is great, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you, Noel.
And a special thanks to Melanie for joining me today. Go check out her book, Odd Woman Out. It is wherever you can find books. I highly recommend the audio version. And if you're in the Santa Monica area, on Thursday, July 17th, check out Home, Finding Our Place in the World. It's at the Santa Monica Public Library. Doors open at 5:30 Pacific. It is free to the public. You can check out her website, MelanieChartoff.com. And if you have a guest suggestion, you can hit me up on X, formerly Twitter, at @TheFirstNoel19, or like the page Reliving My Youth on Facebook. You can go to iTunes, check out all the best episodes we've had. While you're there, please rate and review the show. If you don't have iTunes, not a problem. Show's on SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, basically, where if you can find a podcast. A new episode will come out soon. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you then.